I like how he ends off the videos and stuff like that, like how potential energy and how this stuff works. But again, it's just not algebraically sound while you start understanding gravitationally bound, but needing to understand that the algebra is as important into that field as what I'm trying to specify with something like this. I seriesed out an A bracket and I seriesed out a B bracket because they're kind of equal to each other but separate. You might not notice that that's the first symbol or a second symbol because lambda already defined what that 27th letter of the alphabet would look like in a way so I can do an irrational number A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, which is the ninth letter A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, yeah. And that's not very easy on the frontal cortex, right? That's a hard thing to, well, in math, I don't use A through B and therefore this spectrum of a wave function that is frequency and amplitude. What I use is a probability distribution of black hole, star, planet, or to the electron, which could be anywhere in there on a black body probability of the way that kind of chops itself up in this tight little matrix, right? This first the nature of trying to figure out what that potential energy and gravity are to give me PE in one of these equations, shorthand. And the potential is what I saw. And so if an object, A, in this fourth set, or first set, depending on how that works, is to say A, B, because I want to go half the distance, 1/4, C at causal because it hit the ground, but I'm not pushing it through the earth yet or to the core, so I'm allowed to play 1/4, pi 1/4 of the radial on that notation on G equals mc squared, or when you get into r squared, the features of the field theory that describe what that is, you still don't know what the reference is. It's an object in orbiting around the Earth that's orbiting around, the black hole, which in the greater cosmos of wave functions that fall to a negative neutrino that do not emit light or weakly interact with each other, you wind up with what essentially is A, B, C, because I can fall through the Earth, D and E as far as this fourth dimensional calculation, which gives me this F. And getting out to I is a real hard thing to do because the periodic table and the letter A algebraically want to do a bunch of different sets. They want to be A plus B equals C, and they want to be C equals A plus B. And you could say that's A plus B equals C in these forms right here. I don't know if you quite caught it, but that's the particle. This is its wave. This is its probability distribution of being somewhere in there. Most likely you'll hit this or this. In order to drive this, you're going to need some of the features of what the work is for that integral of high and low to determine what one standard candle is, or the intensity in all of those spectrums to quantify it to be 1/2 as that orbital before angular momentum, or me getting the theta theta difference as far as a term on probability of shooting one off in Florida because I did small satellite tests. I have that potential energy into certain values that says, well, knowing that, then one of those calculations are coming in, and now we're looking at it as its entirety bound by gravity in that system here on the death world. It's a kind of a half joke, it depends on how you're looking at it. But that C also brings me an F. If this thing smashes into the Earth hard enough, it's going to make a gravity wave and a force wave, if you will, or the function of the domain, which is to say that there was enough light or enough sound. When you take this back to the neutron model or whatever Big Bang stuff, what would this thing have to do to shrink in such a way that in that shrinking it gained rotational momentum and then flung something off into the Hoffman trajectory that says that for whatever reasons, X, Y, and Z, X, Y, S1, S2, giving, S0, any symbol, and it could letter B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, N, O, P, lambda, omega. In sense, omega and lambda don't have values in that way, but sigma does. And they're a difference between terms that are equal in that form, but it's because of the way they're made up, black hole to R star, and therefore on Earth you have a nitrogen lock issue in your plants because of your LEDs. It's not just a whole spectrum of like, oh, so they're absorbing the sodium or magnesium out of the light, but because it didn't need that ionization, it's not necessarily a total negative, more like the size of the electron to the proton difference of Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, if it was this gal, which is about 10 inches, I'll get 10 feet. But we know on the size of a globe, the moon is like a quarter inch or something off of it. I don't remember. Or a mile. The satellite was. And then the moon is somewhere out in here. And that's a big scale issue on conservation information to these types of units. And when you're going hunting these types of units, you got to make sure that A-level physics was real close to this, that if there was a difference in terms in that set for the UFV frequency for long wave or short wave or infrared, that in that radiating body, A, B, or C, that it is bound by certain gravitational rules in that function based on observation of the wider margin of that Goldilocks zone, 33 and a third, 33 and a third, and 33 and a third, which, putting in the circles, aren't necessarily going to go 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches in the way that starts to condense against that wall. And I would imagine when we're dealing with either the electron spin, in this case, the idea of the last heat particle or the first one onto that decay for Hoffman, is a wider spectrum, which is true. The intensity over this gives us the ability to get the rocket ship close with small scale tests, so that way you can narrow down that range of theta on the angle of ones. And so I'm going to help you with escape velocity. Your potential gravity field is, if it ever could base out of gravity a test out of this, how am I going to integrate it into that field where I pulled off that first, second, third, and fourth order, so that symbol equals E I minus GM EM by that standard, to reference all four of these, the G, the M crossing out on an integral of wave functions, having some middle ground soinal pump out on this that is both a probability distribution of the nitric salts and also a sinusoidal wave function, because you need to have that third pump through like the X line. 9 volts, which is not volts are to, again, not just that letter farther back on the side, it's also A, in the same way C. And so you get not needing a 27th letter, but give form.